Good morning. Welcome to Lathe and Loom. Hello. Thanks for stopping by the channel. My name is Cher and this is Lathe and Loom. I have an update on the Alchemist Slipover, an update on my double slippers, and I wanted to talk a little bit about gauge and some things I've noticed as I've been doing a machine knitting project. So grab a cuppa and a project and let's get started. I managed to stop in the middle of a row, so maybe we'll do a little bit of a knit and chat. I have to put my glasses on while I finish this. I am knitting on the Alchemist Slipover. This is a pattern by Wool and Pine Designs, and I'm really enjoying it. I had put it on hold a little bit while I had gone down the deep dive of the double slippers, which I'm still really enjoying, but I picked it up. It took a little bit this week. We went down to the farm property, so I had a little bit of car time, did a little bit of knitting on it there because I'm just done straight knitting below the sleeves, and it seems like, I always think, well, it's going to be a long time to get that 8 inches, but if you just sit down, it was kind of pretty quick actually. And then yesterday I realized I was at the point where I needed to start the ribbing, and I originally had thought, oh, I'm going to go ahead and just stop, knit the front, and then I won't have I'll know where I am before I start the ribbing, because it's 4.5 inches of ribbing. And I don't know, lazy, or I don't know. I was actually very happy with where it was falling. And again, at the beginning of this video, they had a tutorial that you could go into once you bought the pattern that talked about the fit. And so I was falling right where they had suggested the end of the stockinette to be kind of right at where you want your waist. And so I just thought, well, I'll go ahead and start this ribbing. It'll take a while, but y'all, just in like yesterday evening, like I've got maybe like 1 inch left of the ribbing. It's going surprisingly fast. I think I'm knitting on, 4.5, which is US 7 needle, 4.5 millimeter US 7 needles. So, not the biggest, but not tiny. And it's 2x2 rib, and it's going really well. I'm still finding this yarn very interesting. I am knitting this in Queensland Kathmandu DK100, so merino silk cashmere tweed. And I don't know, it doesn't look like it in the skein, but in the knitting of it, let's see, obviously because it's got a tweed and it's got that silk, there's some like real thin spots when you kind of get going, and then some real thick spots. So it's very interesting, almost like knitting with hand spun. Let me tell you, this ribbing is, I actually thought a rib sweater in this yarn, squishy. Oh my goodness. So definitely enjoying that. Apparently I don't have a talent for knitting and chatting on camera because I can't keep track of the two things at a time. It's funny, I actually can, maybe I don't get as much done at knit group as I think I do. But anyway, so I'm really enjoying the pattern. I'd like to kind of focus a little bit on this week. I have, and I'll show you my double slipper up there. I'll show you this in a minute, but let's see. We did our second kind of farm task this week. We took some soil samples so that we can. What I'm finding about having sheep is that you are actually a grass farmer who also has sheep. So it's all about the pasture. So we took a really good class at Whispering Pine Farms in Seneca, South Carolina, a couple weeks ago, to learn about regenerative pasture, and just had some really great. They had the Clemson Extension there. They had someone from National Grasslands Coalition. I hope I'm not messing that up. And it was just really informative. I mean, things that you might not think of right off the bat, like your biosecurity on your farm, which is, think about people bringing soil from their shoes onto your farm, where you have established, what your normal parasite load is or isn't, and introducing something different, or introducing a foreign seed or something. So we actually all had to clean our shoes with this peroxide bath, which was really interesting. It just makes you think about things a little bit differently. And I mean, just the myriad of things that you don't even realize happen and you need to know is amazing. So we have so much to learn, but I'm really excited to be on that path and, starting to do some concrete things. So we are waiting on zoning to approve our permit for the mill building. So hopefully we'll get that, I hope, this week. Our contractor's ready, and we're starting the design process on the house. So lots of things in progress. I think our tractor will get delivered maybe in a week or so. So we're super excited about that. And definitely we'll have a lot to learn there as we're making the next step. So anyway, so we'll send that soil sample off to Clemson, and then we'll see what we need to do for where we have a little bit of cleared land, and then where we're going to start those first pastures. Want to get some, probably see if we need to put lime down, maybe get some winter rye growing just to have a cover crop, and then be thinking about what the forages and grasses that we want to plant, come in the spring, so that hopefully this time next year, hopefully we have that all established and have the sheep on the property, and things are going well. So that is super exciting. I am almost at the end of this row. This is 2x2 rib, and it's got an interesting border. It's got like a 1x1 rib border that runs all the way down, even from the top on the stockinette. And I'm actually noticing it's rolling a little bit, and I hope that is not going to be the case once I get it blocked. I mean, I'm sure it's not designed that way. There we go. So here we have almost the entire back section of the Alchemist Slipover. So you can see how pretty that ribbing is. So I'm enjoying that project quite a lot. I just maybe a couple rows before the ribbing started the second ball. So it's 100 grams, 295 yards, so a relatively thin DK weight there. So that's where we are with that, the Alchemist Slipover. I've been knitting away on the double slippers, so you might have seen the little short or reel. I have the one pair done. They're not felted yet, so this is the men's. It's for men's sizing or larger foot. And then I've got the first one done on the next pair, and on this one, should open this up so you can see. So these are knit, kind of like little pants. And this portion here becomes the back of the heel and the heel, well, this way actually. And then this is the end stop here. And so you can see on this pair, this is quite square. Now, honestly, the pair that I did before, it more or less felted out fine. But I wanted to mess with it a little bit and see if I could get a little better shaping. So on this pair, I cast on 6 less stitches and then did 3 increases to get it a little bit rounded. And I think that will be nice here. And then I've knit the interior foot. This one will fold into the other. Just 2 rows shorter. So one section done, and I've started on the next one. I forgot to do the 3rd increase though, so I got all the way to the top and I had to unravel, so that was a lot of fun. But as I was messing with it, because I'm doing some machine knitting, I thought, this is very similar to how you start a hat with ribbing. And so I thought, well, why can't I do that first pocket section on the machine? So I went up and got my chunky machine out, and I did this little, this is my second one. The first one fell off the machine because I didn't have the weight right. But I did this little sample. So this is, if I doubled it, would be the top part here, right? It's just this pouch. And so I thought, so I want to go down. This is tension 7 and this is tension 8. So I want to see if it will do a 6. It's pretty tight on the machine. But I think the 7 would be fine. Now, I could do the decrease, increase, but it'll be a little bit dicier. I'm not super skilled at that. But I think because this is loose, I can, it's pretty, seems more malleable than my hand knit, because it's a little bit loose in that first cast on. So I'm going to try that for the next pair, which, that would greatly speed. I did this in about 4 minutes. So, maybe 10 minutes a pair to get the first half done would be, really speed it up, and then just do the toe by hand, which I'm sure could also be done on the machine. But, I do like the knitting of them. So that is where we are with the double slippers. Yeah, so what else am I knitting on? I did start on the Arnie and Carlos Mystery Cowl for the 2025 Christmas stocking. I have never knit that, and I don't know. There was just something, I was watching them do their daily broadcast, and I was like, I want to do that. And I'm like, I think I have enough yarn. I had almost all the Briggs and Little, or I had almost all the colors in Briggs and Little. I had to order one, which of course is this week's first color, so I'm going to get behind again. But I started it Saturday and was able to catch up week 1 by Sunday. It's only 6 rounds a day, so the toe was a little bit more. Sorry, I forgot to take those back off. Toe was a little bit more, and then I got caught up, so I will show you that next week. But here's a quick photo of where we are at for week 1, and hopefully I will get the yarn. I ordered that for Maritime Family Fiber, so hopefully that'll be pretty quick shipping. I can catch back up. Because of course you knew the one color I didn't have would be this week's color. Anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit about gauge. So, I am a long time, I'm not a good swatcher. Even if I do swatch, I don't find it very reliable. And I think I have maybe uncovered part of the issue. Now, you always hear you need to knit a really big swatch, right? So I am doing this trouser pattern on the flatbed knitting machine. So it's a pair of, there was an option for kind of like track pants where, the cuff came in, and then like a trouser pant. So I'll pop a quick photo here. Future editing me loves when I do that. And here is where I'm knitting on. Kind of interesting, huh? So this is interesting. You actually are knitting, let me move some stuff here. You're actually knitting, like if you sewed a pair of slacks, you would have the pattern piece and you would cut the fabric out, right? So in the flatbed knitting of this pattern, we are actually knitting the cutout pattern piece, right? So the shaped piece. So for example, here, this is my left front leg, and this is, I mean, there's more shape to it than that, but this was my visual. So because you knit on the machine with the wrong side facing you, this is so I just traced it right in the mirror image. And so that as I'm looking on the machine, I know this is the side I'm doing my shaping on. And there's a little bit on this side too, but, and following the pattern directions. And then I have to kind of put out my increases so that I know each row on there. So this starts with, no surprise, a swatch. So I am trying to be very diligent in my learning of my knitting machine. So I did several swatches. You can see the different, tensions. And like this is a pretty good size swatch. And there's like a kind of a formula that you are, using to, I won't go into that, here, but, certain number of stitches in rows, and there's actually a ruler that kind of helps you because these are quite small stitches. So I'll give you a close up here. I'm using Knit Picks palette on a cone in, I can't remember what this bright blue cerulean or something. Anyway, so I was really comfortable. So I got the tension on my machine was like 1 off. I was using tension 6, so you use a dial, right? So if you think about it, there's no other variable than the yarn and then your dial on your switch. So it should be very consistent piece to piece to piece for that yarn on that tension. So I got the stitch gauge. My row gauge was just a little short, and they had instructed us to make sure to do a really large swatch and to hang it because of course it's a pair of pants, right? So you've got a lot of weight on there. And I did that. I blocked it. I hung it for a couple days before I did my measurement. And I thought, well, it might be a tiny bit short, but worst case, I could, maybe tack on a little more, hem or something. So I went with the gauge that matched the stitch gauge because I'm more worried about the width from a fit perspective, right? And and then I knit my first leg. Let's see if I can get down here to my first sample. I'm trying to make sure I keep these all in good order. So I knit my first leg. Let me just show you. Here's a photo. I am not this tall. So it is touching the ground, and here is this is the cuff in. So, but you can see the shaping, right? So this is the leg, right? This would go, kind of between your legs. And anyway, so it would be, for really, even my husband is not that tall. And so this leg's getting ripped out. So I thought, well, my goodness, what the heck? And so I laid it out with a pair of my, existing slacks. So here's another photo. And figured out where there's 2 straight runs in the pattern where you would lengthen or shorten just like you would in sewing. And I laid it out and I figured out, what I would need to do. Again, keeping this gauge, which by the way, was not this gauge. And I think what it shows is that the weight of your fabric is really quite important to that overall gauge. And I think that is why when we hand knit a swatch, or even 6x6, and then you put it into a whole sweater, especially if you're using heavier yarn, it's going to make a difference. So it's kind of a big aha moment. And I don't know that there's a lesson learned from that other than I think where I've found with garment knitting very often is knitting that first part of it and then blocking it and kind of seeing where you're at. Or really big swatches, and then I typically block flat. So in this case, that we were hang blocking, and there's a lot of folks who steam block. So there was actually a quite interesting discussion on the community about steam blocking or wet blocking. I just wet block everything because that's what I know as a hand knitter. But yeah, I just thought it was real interesting. So I don't know if I have. So now I have all of my leg pieces. So I don't know if I could hold up the two of them together. That would be kind of interesting. I've got this. So let's see. Here is. You can see the end. Okay, there's the end of the correct one, and then there's the end of the incorrect one. So anyway, so yeah, this is a crazy bright blue color, and my natural inclination on selecting the yarn was to do black, right? But I was worried about just black knitting, just in hand knitting, just being able to see the stitches, and this is something so new to me that I wanted to have a good, so this crazy bright blue pair of lounge pants, but I'm happy with it. So I have all four of the main leg pieces. I have, get my pieces back together. I've got one of the pocket, have the other pocket on the machine. Now it's all hard to see. And then I knit the waistband pieces, and then I'll do the assembly. So I'm a little bit, I'm not the world's best at seaming. I think I might do the top part on the machine as far as it goes, and then I'm not sure if I will seam the rest by hand. Anyway, but I'm really anxious to get that done because this week I start the Fair Isle yoke class with Nick Corrigan. So I'm very excited. We're going to be doing her new pattern, the Eve's jumper. So you might know, if you have dabbled at all in machine knitting, she has the Studley jumper pattern, which is available on Ravelry. And I've been long wanting to do that. So actually I got both patterns in this master class, and then we have I think it's 4 weeks, but 5 live, online instructional things, which I'm just super excited. So I have the book, I have her book, and that'll be kind of like my companion textbook, I guess, right? But to do it live and be able to ask questions is this machine knit community is just wonderful for that learning process. So I am going to unravel and reuse this yarn. I am hoping to get either, I don't know if I'll have enough, about 2 cones of the yarn. So I don't know if I'll have enough to do a jumper. I'm thinking, I'd like to do, maybe like the red panda sweater. I think I had that on last week maybe. Or something to do, or knit a little cami to go under it and have a pullover. So yeah, just sort of fun experimenting. So I thought this was really interesting. Be curious your thoughts, how you found with gauge. I really thought it would be less of an issue with machine knitting, so I was really surprised. And once you get it set, it's fine, right? I mean, it's consistent piece to piece, and so I'll be swatching that again. I'm going to use Jamison's and Smith jumper weight for my my 2 jumpers. So I think that'll be really, really interesting. And then I'm going to keep playing around with a little bit. Obviously these are done. This is done on my standard gauge machine. This is done on a bulky gauge machine. Continue to experiment with what I think we call hybrid knitting, so partially machine, partially hand knitting. So it's interesting though to think about what parts would, first I thought, oh well, you would do the boring part on the machine and you would hand knit the yoke, but doing the yokes with the punch cards, I think it's going to be very interesting. So I think you do a little bit of both. It's not the same. I don't sit up there in the evening to relax. It requires for me, it requires a lot of focus, because I'm learning. I'm still having to kind of look up stuff as I go. Like, what was that increase, but the more I do it, like, it was very satisfying to like sit down and like cast it on and not really have to look at the manual. And then so each leg got a little faster. Clearly doing this fine gauge on a hand knitting for a pair of trousers would take an enormous amount of time. So we'll see how my seaming goes, and then I will update you on that probably in a couple of weeks as I keep going down these cast on rabbit holes. Susan of Wild Cottage had a members post today and was talking about, are you a monogamous knitter basically, or do you have a lot of cast-ons? And I really go through phases. I'll go through a phase where I really want to kind of clean up most everything, and I had done that through a good part of the year. And then I just got like, now I want to cast on all the things. And partially is, I don't typically gift knit, but I want to do these. And I've actually, if I can get that hybrid down, I'll actually be able to add in a couple of other pairs. Want to get the Alchemist Slipover done. I'm still knitting on the project, my dad's jumper. So I have a lot of things. So luckily right now I have a lot of time while we're kind of in between things with getting the farm up and running and not having the day job. So that's a blessing that I will sure look back and be really glad that I've had this time. So that's all I wanted to share today. Just a fairly quick one. Love to know what you're working on. I'd like to know your thoughts on, do you swatch? Do you, are you a monogamous knitter? So like, tell me all the things in the comments below. I would love that. And I appreciate you stopping by, and I'll see you again next week. Thanks, y'all. Happy knitting, spinning, dyeing, and weaving.